name means Mound of the Dead, was one of the largest urban settlements in the world in 2600 BC.
The ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro had what appeared to be streets that were laid out parallel and perpendicular to each other like a modern city. The homes actually had their own toilets, and they had a very sophisticated sewer system. So it looks like a very advanced city.
Ancient astronaut theorists have long thought this site was also the epicenter of a nuclear explosion that occurred more than 4,000 years ago.
Skeletons were found in dead positions as though there's an instantaneous death. And some of those skeletons, as measured by Soviet scientists, had 50 times the normal radioactivity. They found pottery that had been fused. Then walls were heated to such an extent they became vitrified or glass-like, suggesting some sort of ancient nuclear weapon involved.
According to the Mahabharata, the ancient holy text of the Hindus, white-hot smoke rose in infinite brilliance and reduced the city to ashes. Horses were burned by the thousands, and corpses were vaporized by intense heat.
And afterwards, a big silence came over the entire land, and people started to have boils on their skin. Their hair started to fall out, and their nails. There's only one thing that causes this, and that is radiation poisoning. It's radiation fallout.
So the question then becomes, when events happen in a place where there is extreme radiation, what impact does that have on human life or on other life present there? Could this explain, for example, why creatures were born with more than one arm or more than one leg, which then somehow became deified? Because even to this day, we know that in civilizations where anomalous human beings are born, somehow the touch of God is seen to be part of this creation.
According to the ancient Hindu texts, after the carnage at Mohenjo-Daro, a fearsome flying monster appeared in the sky. It was called Garuda.
In the Mahabharata, the Garuda is a massive bird-like creature. It's a red face, red wings, talon. It's so huge it would block out the sun. There are stories that it would let a certain god, Vishnu, ride on him on occasion.
Each and every time he would show up, descending from the sky, he would create hurricane winds, and upon his descent, the earth would shake, dust would fly up in the air, and everyone in the vicinity would be absolutely terrified. Now, here we have a carving of Garuda, and if we look at the top, yes, they look like feathers, but at the same time, they could be interpreted as big, gigantic flames.
According to Hindu mythology, Garuda is born out of this cosmic event, this war and destruction that happens at the end of every age.
Could this have been somehow connected to exposure or to radiation, being born within a zone of high radiation? We cannot know the answer, but we do know that within India and within Pakistan there are known zones of higher radiation than there are normal. The logic dictates that somehow genetic abominations will have been born within those places.
If Mohenjo-Daro was in fact the site of an ancient nuclear attack, could it be possible that Garuda was a mutant beast created as a byproduct of intense radioactivity?
We tend to have a science fiction view of what mutation is. We think of mutations being caused by radiation, and they cause outlandish features and gigantic-sized insects and so forth. But in fact, mutations happen all the time.
There's no recorded evidence of any radiation causing a mutation which changes some species into a different species. Most of the radiation mutations are lethal.
But if, as modern scientists believe, Garuda was not likely the result of genetic mutation, then what could explain its existence?
The Mahabharata states that Garuda was born from this raging inferno. And what's really intriguing is the fact that in some text passages we can read that the exterior of Garuda did not consist of feathers, but of metal. Now, what kind of a bird is that? No bird is made of metal unless it's a type of machine.
Garuda was a flying vehicle, and Garuda was able to travel to the moon and around the earth with very, very high speed. Garuda even was able to shock mankind with lightning, which fell from heaven.
Garuda was considered to be a snake killer. In fact, Garuda needed to eat snakes in order to survive. Now compare an airplane at the airport today hooked up to a fuel line. Isn't that airplane eating a snake? If you see modern fighter jets take off in the middle of the night, there's smoke and fire coming out of the exhaust. It looks like a dragon. It looks like some type of a mythical creature, especially if you don't know what you're witnessing is nuts and bolts technology. So of course you're gonna liken it to a living creature.